It's hard enough being straight in 2024, never mind having to be a dev creating a game based around marriage where you have kids. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. And this game, Soulash 2, is being attacked by the LGBTQ plus mob because the developer had the audacity to say no when he was adding marriages to the game, because the game is based around traditional marriages and making kids and creating a lineage in medieval times. It's kind of part of the core game concept, how the game plays itself. It's not like it's going to be modern times with modern conveniences and modern audiences. This is a game that's aiming for some sort of historical accuracy when it comes to continuing the lineage of the families. And holy crap, when the developer responded to someone saying, "Thanks for the question, no, we're not going to be implementing that," the user lost their mind, and then the woke mob brigade got together and said, "We're going to cancel this game." But joke's on them, the exact opposite has happened. Hit that subscribe, give me a like, and check out smashjt.com for the full article talking about how Soulash 2 is not bending the knee to the woke mob, and because of that, it's seeing unprecedented success based off of sales in the past. Soulash 2 implemented a marriage mechanic that is pivotal for character legacy through progeny, whimsically having in-game children delivered by a stork. However, the mechanic is limited to traditional heterosexual pairings. The design choice has led to significant backlash from the LGBTQ plus mob after a player had asked the developer about the inclusion of same-sex marriages. The developer cordially let them know that he had no plans to add that as an option, and that is only the beginning of this rabbit hole. The review on Twitter comes through as, "The developer is an evil person and also an idiot. Other people have talked about why he is an evil person, so I will explain why he's an idiot." This review is already off to a roaring start, with a very intellectual person calling the developer an idiot because he chooses not to add LGBTQ plus into his game. He's an idiot because despite being a full-grown adult, he doesn't understand basic natural consequences. If you are openly bigoted, the people who hate bigots will use the tools at their disposal to punish you, aka a subtle threat to, "Oh, you're not gonna bend the knee to the woke mob? Alright, we're gonna get our band of bros together and get your game cancelled." Even if the idiot manages to salvage his Steam rating, he has made himself toxic to associate with for several of the key YouTubers who provide publicity to roguelike games, and is therefore unlikely to receive further coverage from them. So this is like such a wild, veiled threat from this review, basically trying to say like, hey, it's our way or the highway. If you do not bend the knee to us, we will attack your game into the ground. You will fail. And in a way, it kind of explains why these multi-billion-dollar corporations are so afraid to go against the grain, because they don't want to lose out on the money. They don't want to be canceled by these people. But the tide is turning. They continue, "Anyone with basic business sense would know not to say the heinous things he has, so clearly he has none. An individual without basic business sense is likely to make unsound decisions in the future, which means he is much less likely to succeed in developing the game enough for it to be worth the price he charges. So even if you are an armroll selfish egotist, or worse, a bigot, the poor decision making demonstrated by his awful behavior is a good reason not to buy the game." And yeah, in times past, this unfortunately used to work. A game would be basically dead on arrival if you pissed off this LGBTQ plus mafia. But like I said, the tides are turning, and this kind of attack, this approach, doesn't work anymore. The developer banned me from Soulash 2 community for asking him to implement same-sex marriage in the same way he implemented heterosexual relationships. And then they link a notice of the ban, and I'm like, Don't you think that maybe you got banned because you were attacking him and threatening to coerce all your friends into getting this game, banding them together and getting the game canceled? You don't think the developer is like, yeah, no, get the hell out of here with this. I don't want even people seeing that because I don't want this woke brigade coming to cancel my game. This community then proceeded to harass me with homophobic rhetoric, which they still do to this very day. Cannot recommend supporting the game with a clear stance by the dev and his community against the LGBTQ plus player base. So, okay, let me get this straight. The developer created a game called Soulash 2. He implemented a design choice for heterosexuals, I know, crazy theory here, to have kids, okay? And those kids create the lineage and the game continues from that. You can't really implement gay marriage in a medieval time and have that mechanic still work properly with it making any sense. It just doesn't work that way. And the developer was cordial initially with this response. And then you came back with that review and threats. And of course he's going to ban you. What do you think's going to happen? I'd do the same thing. The developer responded, this person wrote a very respectful request for inclusiveness in the game, to which I politely declined. You can read both unedited messages here. And I tried to link to those, but they are not available anymore. But it says, I allowed players to share their opinions on Steam and Discord for a week. However, the polite masks of a few impatient activists started slipping over time when other players expressed opposite views about tolerance for other cultures. They began harassing everyone and culminated their organized efforts with a few reviews about bigotry, which, as I was looking through on Steam, I saw them and I'm like, yep, that's the only tool that these people have. They are powerless, so they use the reviews as a way to rally people together to try to get a game canceled. I wish to make it clear that harassment of players and members of the development team has no place in our community, regardless of group association, so this person has been banned. Fair enough. It seems like the developer is just trying to keep a fair and even playing ground and make it about, I know, crazy thought, the game. The developer's response to the controversy has been fair, but even still, the LGBTQ plus mafia would never be appeased. The developer went on to say on Twitter, my grandparents survived the Nazis. My parents endured communism. I had to live through religious oppression since the age of 10, and now some spoiled brats think I'll bend the knee to their rainbow flag, or else they'll type some words. I already have a flag I'm proud of, and shows his native flag as the screenshot. And I'm like, this is what the world needs more of. Being passionate and happy in patriotism about where you're from and believing that that flag represents who you are and what you stand for and that you don't need these other flags to represent you. Because that in itself creates more division, which unfortunately, that's what these people clearly want. LGBT critics of the developer's decision have argued that excluding same-sex pairings is unnecessarily restrictive and alienates, as they put it, a significant portion of the gaming community. They've contended that such decisions perpetuate exclusions in an industry that otherwise should be increasingly striving for inclusivity. Where have we heard these words before? And holy crap, by the way, isn't it like there's an infinite amount of games out there to play? It's almost like they're trying to get an agenda and narrative shoved down your throat in any capacity possible because they are not gamers. They are activists trying to push their narrative and propaganda on the rest of the world, and they're using the video games as the road to get there. The developer Arthur continued on Twitter saying, I've received many well wishes and expressions of compassion from people who just found out about me. Thank you very much. The pressure has been challenging for me and my wife, but what I've read from actual LGBTQ people who also were oppressed by extremists shielding themselves with this label, fellow developers, artists, and gamers, gives me the strength to push through and let these rotten people continue to expose themselves. How hard will they try to punch a guy making a game because one design decision and one tweet? Now, I'm far from being alone. Thank you again. And then we have Wanderbot on Twitter with the counter argument saying, I'm seeing an amount of pushback saying that Arthur should be allowed to make the game they want to make. And while I would normally agree, like if it fits my narrative, I totally agree with him. But since it doesn't, I am totally against this guy. While I'd normally agree, he should have just taken the 4 bad reviews on the chin and moved on. So you're telling the developer how they should handle the reviews that are coming through on their game that literally have absolutely nothing to do with the game itself. They are slanderous against him, his game, everything he stands for. He should just sit there and take it in his Steam forum. You think he should just do that rather than trying to deride them and LGBTQ folks in public? I am sure this Wanderbot guy has never deleted a comment on his YouTube channel. I'm sure in his Twitter threads he's never tried to expose people. I'm sure he just lets everything fly on his side of things, right? Yeah, of course that's how it works. Ironically, the developer's initial concern that advocating for inclusivity could lead to an attempt to cancel the game seemed to have initially materialized, where there was an influx of negative reviews, bad press, people online and Twitter in their circles were kind of rallying their troops and circling the wagons on how they were going to try to go about canceling this game. All the while, people have started to look at the situation, find out about it, and guess what happened? The game got an immense positive push, tons of positive press, tons of positive reviews, and overall, blown out completely previous sales in the weeks and months leading up to this. Arthur said on Twitter, "It's no longer ugly mixed reviews. The tide has turned. Never give up on your vision for a handful of extremists and focus on making the game you wish to share. It's your name attached to it. Be proud of your work and let it be known." And if this is not the icing on the cake of what looked to be initially an atrociously bad cancel campaign story, I could not be happier to hear that we have a success story in the gaming world where these LGBTQ plus people who are doing their thing, living their lives, but there's a few rotten eggs in that community that try to rally everyone together and get a game canceled because they want everything to represent themselves and they can't live and let live. Ironically, they're trying to cancel anyone else that doesn't stand for what they stand for. It's a hypocritical paradox that they're living in. And Arthur summed up the positive review blowing out previous sales with a tweet stating, "The emperor has no clothes. There's nothing to fear from the oppressive mob trying to force their ideology. Games are for fun, not activism. Don't compromise your game design. Ban those who can't stand hearing no. We'll be there for you if they dare this again." Holy crap, mic drop moment. This developer just owned them, and I couldn't be happier to see it. This is a win, not just for heterosexual folks, but for gamers in general. I'm not saying that every LGBTQ plus person is out to cancel every heterosexual person, nor do I say every heterosexual person is perfectly fine. Like, there are some bad actors everywhere, and all this developer was doing is calling that out, and you love to see it because ultimately, I'd like to think, this puts gaming in general in a much better place. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. If you guys want more information, check out smashjt.com for the full exhaustive article going through this entire story with like information, screenshots, and sources. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you appreciate what I'm doing, please consider hitting that join button, and as always, you stay smashing.
Smash it,